YouTube, all my anime lovers out there, how is it going? It's your man Takame Love Anime back with another video. And for today, I have episode 4 of Bluelock, and we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. So let's just talk about it. So for this episode of Bluelock, it started off very simple, and this was one of the slower paced episodes that I would say it was still very, very interesting because they touched back on that topic before that I talked about, basically with the rankings and based off of the rankings, what you will eat as your main dish. So that was something very interesting because it's a factor that plays in that makes you want to work even harder, let alone all the other aspects that come along with Bluelock. But better nutrition and protein offered in your meal would probably give you a better head start and help aid you in working out and everything else in that regard. Maybe I'm just thinking a little bit too far, but that's how I treat that meal and everything, because the aspect of Bluelock, everything matters. Ego said this before, soccer and just everything that goes on, everything there matters for a reason. But we have Team Z and Team Y. Team Z being Isagi's team and everything. Team Y being Nico and everybody else. Those guys getting ready to play Team Y. So this time they didn't entirely go in without a plan. They went in with a plan, which was something that was very interesting to see, because this was a team that just prior to that got demolished and just beat up so bad to where they had to come back with something else, because if they lose, then their season is over, and entirely you can't afford to lose too. So this was a must-win game for both sides. So them having a strategy which was interesting, being the next up 11 type of strategy, excluding Chigiri and Lemon. So everybody else gets a turn, probably 10 minutes or so, rotating through using everybody's abilities. So they were going through, Kon was going through basically jotting down what everybody's abilities were. Everybody came to say their abilities except for basically Chigiri and Isagi. Isagi couldn't come to an agreement of what his was, but Kunigami basically came and told us what it was. It was pretty much decision making and thinking throughout the game. His intelligence is one of his best abilities. Chigiri, we're still unknown to know what his is, but I'm speculating that it'll probably be a guy that is like just very balanced and all around. He probably might just turn out to be the best one out of all of them, ranked as of right now. But Shira's the highest ranked, so that and all was going on. But very strong, like smart strategic plan. I like to see that aspect because this is something that they need to implement, and it's not just something that makes everybody go on the back burner, but uses everybody's skill to an advantage that circulates out. And let alone, if it wasn't for Team Y, this strategy probably would have prospered very much. That just me saying that because Team Y was already scouting and figuring and knowing that Kunigami was the one that made it go last time, so they'll probably try to use him as much as possible. And when his turn comes, I was expecting him to be very dominant, and so were they. So they planned for that. But their strategy was to just neutralize, get on the counterattack, and then if they're up, just kill the clock, which was a smart idea to definitely do, and can't blame them for that. And it just so happened that their plans bump heads, with Team Z being the rotate and using everybody's ability, not being able to adapt to it, but Team Y having Nico being their smartest and their lifeline of the team to set up the goals. So throughout the game they're playing and everything, it doesn't seem like it's necessarily working in all throughout. So it's very tough for everything to go on and just for them to figure out what's going on. So turns go by. Kunigami has a couple that they just, they're not letting him score. Same thing with Bachira. Bachira started with the ball and he got in pretty good position in the field, but they were just known his dribbling was one of the best, so they would try to just basically just triple team him to get the ball out away from him. Plus Kon and just everybody else in that guard, Rachi, especially him, he didn't even get a turn. I mean, Rachi didn't even get a turn. I know he was mad, but it's literally what can you expect when they're up and they're gonna just drain the clock. That was their attack. Somebody that really did surprise me was Geen. Geen was one of those guys that really is kind of shaky to me and kind of makes me feel a little bit weird at times, because he's a guy that just seems like he would be a dope, like, cool guy to hang out with, but he's just very awkward and kind of weird. But nothing wrong with that. But he turned out to score actually the goal that got them into the game, which was an amazing feat for that. Which, when I'm just like, whoa, like, his agility was really something amazing that they were raving about. Isagi was very, very, very much right about his ability to be agile and everything. That man really, like, when he hit that bar, I like winced. I was like, oh man, I know that hurt. But he definitely scored, and I was like, that's what's up. So throughout the game, yeah, it was just really much just a paced out game. It was very interesting to see those aspects. It was nothing really extreme happening in this episode, let alone probably in the next episode it will, because they're still continuing the game. As of right now, it's 1-1. Isagi and Nico just going off and talking to each other, saying basically, you won't beat me, you're not as good as I am. Basically building that little rivalry to maybe we'll see, because Nico says Isagi has the same type of eyes as him, and we've seen the animation that we so much love about this series, and just the thriving aspect of Isagi being able to think and switch up on a drop of a dime, figuring out that Nico is their lifeline, and with the kick, they put too many people in the box, and him being able to back out and intercept the ball and get into position to where his initial thought with ego put into his head, of course, like they said, was supposed to be him taking the shot, but the shot got deflected and it got tipped to Gin. So Gin made the goal, which he portrayed as a pass, but Isagi wasn't necessarily a pass, but it worked out in the end. Just all his thought process up to that point is what saved them, which was something that we got to see, because I figured that Isagi was definitely, one of his traits was definitely being able to think and adapt to the situation with his IQ. I was gonna say striking, but probably not so much. We haven't really seen too much of that. But I'm really interested in Shikiri, because this is the first time we've seen Shikiri really in the forefront of the series, and him get a lot of screen time, and us left with cliffhangers, because we got left with a cliffhanger with Isagi, but our situation and what we thought got solved because Kunagami came over and was talking to him and everything. And I'll touch up on Kunagami. I want to wrap up with him. But Shigiri, really interesting character. I can't wait to see the aspect and what they push with him, because I think that's a very character that, like, I was always wondering about when I initially, before this series got animated, I was reading up and I was like, that's very interesting. I want to see more about him. And that was one of the characters that I'm just like, I can't wait to see what they do with him. But let's go back in the video on Kunagami. Kunagami is a character that I very much are going to love, and I really love the aspect of his character, especially the one thing that I can really respect is his resolve. That man's resolve is like no other. The fact that he can actually commit to something and think about something and never doubt it and really stick to that shows development. It shows how focused he is. Literally, if nobody in Bluelock is more committed to what Ego is putting out, it has to be Kunagami. He has to be the representation of exactly what Ego is pushing, and Kunagami actually having that resolve and having that mindset is like no other. And you can do nothing but respect that, especially him being nothing but like a big, strong softy. Like, that man is a big, strong softy that you can see when Isagi just goes and thanks him and just like, you're a really cool guy. He's like, just don't spin it that way type of stuff, just not knowing how to respond. And you can tell that he's definitely one of those guys that you want to have on your side, that definitely will rough somebody up and fuck them up, but wouldn't want to, and would just simply just take them to the hospital and make sure that they were good and sit bedside after he just whooped their ass. He's that type of guy. He's a friend that you will want to have. And I'm glad that Isagi is building that relationship. We're going to see them start to evolve and revolve around each other with Kunagami, Chigiri, Bachira, and Isagi. We've seen it with Isagi, Kunagami, and Bachira. We haven't seen it with Chigiri just yet. Chigiri's still opening up, and I can't wait to see the aspect that how those four evolve around each other, because they're the four that are being pushed for Team Z, and the four that are basically the face of Bluelock as it's to come at this point, and I'm very much excited to see that because they're very much four of the most interesting characters. Even with Isagi being the main character, you could even go off to say Konagami, Chikiri, and Bachira being very much more interesting than Isagi. Isagi to me has the utmost potential, but I feel like those characters have so much interest to them. It's definitely Bachira. Bachira is my favorite character, and I feel like he's so interesting to a point to where you would just want to pick his brain because he just is so wild. Especially with Chikiri, he's just so off-putting that you want to figure out what is going on with him. And Kunigami, he wears his heart on his sleeve, but he's very a respectful person that has his morals and everything intact. So you have nothing but to respect in that. And I can't wait to see the next episode because I want to see how Nico and Isagi go on to finish the match because there's not that much time left, and this is a very winnable match for Team Z. And I want to see if they keep going with this way of aspect that they got going on because people bought in, Lemons bought in to being the goalie and them switching out and how effective this is going to be, especially with Team Y's plan of not being able to run the clock out now, but having to play an actual match and finish it out. This is an amazing series. I cannot say that enough. Like, this series is so interesting, and this is a series that I would tell a lot of people to check out. But pretty much this is a slow episode where there wasn't really a lot to digest besides all the things that I was just talking about. These were some of the main factors that I wanted to speak about. There is something I want to say before I wrap this video up. I really appreciate everybody supporting the series. Any series on this channel, I really appreciate that. It's not just going to be weekly recap videos of just episodes. I'm going to go back to talking about topics and maybe even just doing like a little podcast or anything on here. So drop questions, anything, let me know, talk to me. I really appreciate all that. Please like, comment, subscribe. All that helps this channel because the more people that like this video, the more I get pushed out with the views as well, and I get more engagement, and it helps me pump out more videos because I know that the content that I'm giving you, you're digesting and you're liking. As well, if you're watching from anywhere outside of the US, drop it down below. If you need subtitles or you need captions, I will definitely put captions on these videos so you can get the utmost enjoyment. Lastly, if you know any way to get live clips outside of stock images in these videos, I would really appreciate that because I would love to actually upgrade these videos and make them more interesting and keep it outside of my voice, but let alone the images in the back more enticing and more interesting for you guys, because the stock images aren't something that I'm just leaving on there. It's just a very hard task to figure out a way to be doing those and trying to get them out weekly on time. It's just a very whole thing to that. So if you know any YouTubers, know any websites, any pages, anything like that I can get those off of and figure out how to do it, drop it down below. I'll really appreciate it. If you know anybody that does any amazing work as well, I would love to reach out to them and get some help. I would definitely pay anything like that. There's no situation, anything to that. But I really appreciate everybody getting to the end of this video. Bluelock, an amazing series, let alone in this episode. Let me know who your favorite character was, what was your favorite moment, and are you ready for episode 5? It's been your man Takami Love Anime, and I'm gonna see y'all when I see y'all. Peace.